He thought he'd done right. Her words told him he'd only delayed the pain. Commander Elias Varin stood at the edge of the cliff, his eyes scanning the alien horizon. The planet below was unlike anything he had ever seen. Towering crystal spires rose from the jagged ground, reflecting the faint light of the distant sun in colors that humans did not even have names for. The wind carried a strange metallic scent that made his throat tight. This was the frontier. This was why humans had reached out to the stars. For survival, for discovery, for power. Behind him, Dr. Leora Nix adjusted her field scanner, her brow furrowed. These readings, the energy crystals are unstable. We need to be careful. Her voice was calm, precise, but there was an edge of worry Elias could hear. She had spent years studying alien cultures, understanding their languages, their customs, and their warnings. And yet, here they were, about to make contact with a civilization that had never spoken to humans before. Elias turned to her. Careful is my middle name, Doctor. We've prepared for this. Our mission is clear. Secure the crystals, return to Earth, prevent the energy crisis. That's it. He spoke with the confidence of a man who had led dozens of missions, but inside, a small knot of doubt twisted. Leora shook her head slightly. It's not that simple. These creatures, they are sentient. They feel. They think. They might see us as invaders. Elias let out a breath, frustrated. I know that. But if we don't get these crystals, millions of people back home will suffer, including families, children. His voice trailed off. The truth was harsh. The energy crisis had already caused riots on multiple human colonies. Every day they delayed could cost lives. The team moved carefully down the cliff, each step measured. The crystal fields stretched out before them, glowing faintly in the twilight. Strange, almost transparent tendrils of energy floated in the air, pulsing like living veins. Elias felt the hum under his feet vibrating through his boots, through his bones. He had never felt anything like it. Suddenly a low sound echoed from the crystal formations. It was not like any sound he had heard on Earth. It was musical, almost whispering, but it carried weight, a sense of awareness. The team froze. Leora raised her scanner. They're aware of us, she said softly. They've been watching. This was the moment of truth. They had two choices. Take the crystals now and risk a confrontation, or attempt to communicate and risk losing the opportunity. He wanted to believe the negotiation was possible, that humans could reason with a species far older and wiser. He raised his hand, signaling the team to stop. Let's not rush. We'll approach slowly. Keep scanners on, keep weapons ready, but no sudden moves. His voice was firm, confident, but there was a tremor of fear. Hours passed as they moved through the crystal labyrinth. Shadows stretched long and the alien sun dipped lower. Then they saw them. Beings tall and elegant, with translucent skin that shimmered like the crystals themselves. Their eyes glowed faintly, intelligent and curious. They didn't move aggressively, but they didn't move away either. Elias stepped forward, arms raised slightly in a gesture he hoped would be universal. We come in peace, he said. One of the beings tilted its head. Then a voice echoed, not in words, but in thoughts. Elias could feel it in his mind, like a gentle wave brushing against him. Humans, why here? Leora placed a hand on his arm. They communicate telepathically. They can sense our intentions. Elias swallowed hard. This was beyond any protocol. He had trained for countless scenarios, but nothing could have prepared him for this. We come for the crystals, he thought, hoping they would understand. We need them to survive. There was a pause, a silence that stretched like an eternity. Then another thought came, clearer, stronger. You take, we suffer. Your people will gain, our people will lose. Elias felt a chill. He had expected negotiation, maybe even resistance, but not guilt. The aliens were already making him feel responsible, even before any action had been taken. He looked at Leora. We can't just take them. I know, but what do we do? They won't give them freely. They've been guarding these crystals for centuries. Any forceful attempt could provoke a war we cannot win. Elias clenched his fists. The weight of command pressed down on him. Every decision he made now would ripple across the galaxy. If he took the crystals, Earth would be saved, but this world might pay the price. If he left, millions of humans could die. He thought of the families waiting on distant planets, the children who would never see their parents because the energy shortages had caused famine. And yet he also thought of these alien beings, who had no choice in humanity's problems, yet whose lives were now intertwined with his decisions. Finally he made a choice. We retreat for now, he said. We'll report back to Earth. Maybe there's another way. Maybe we can find a solution that doesn't involve taking from them by force." Leora looked at him, her eyes sharp. "Elias, delaying will not stop the pain. It only postpones it, you must understand that." He wanted to argue, to say that he was protecting everyone, but her words cut deep. They were right, he knew. Choosing the morally correct path didn't guarantee safety, it didn't erase the consequences. The team began the long climb back to the cliff. Behind them, the alien beings watched, their eyes calm, knowing, almost sorrowful. Elias could feel their disappointment, not directed at him personally, but at the inevitability of suffering. As night fell, the alien landscape transformed. The crystals glowed brighter, casting dancing lights on the ground. Elias could not help but feel a pang of regret, mixed with awe. This planet, these beings, their history, it was beautiful, fragile, and entirely beyond human control. That night, in the camp aboard their transport ship, Elias couldn't sleep. He stared out at the glowing horizon, thinking about the choice he had made. He thought he had done right. He had chosen mercy, chosen diplomacy. Yet Leora's words haunted him. Delaying the pain didn't mean avoiding it. He thought about what awaited them on Earth. Desperate politicians, starving colonies, angry citizens. They would expect results. They would expect him to have the crystals. He had delayed, yes, but for how long and at what cost? Leora approached quietly, sitting beside him. "You did what you thought was right," she said softly. "That's all any of us can do, but remember, the universe does not forgive hesitation easily." Elias nodded, but he couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. He was a commander, trained to make impossible choices. But this was different. This was not a battle with strategy charts or weapon systems. This was a moral battlefield, and every option had a price. Outside, the wind howled across the cliffs, whispering through the crystals like voices of the past. Elias closed his eyes, imagining the eyes of the aliens he had left behind. They were not enemies. They were simply alive, like him, trying to survive in a harsh universe. He made a silent vow. When the time came, he would not falter again. If a choice had to be made, he would face it fully. But tonight, he would allow himself this small moment of doubt, this fleeting shadow of guilt, and hope that the delay had not already doomed everyone. The stars stretched above them, infinite and cold, and somewhere, in the shadows of the crystal spires, the alien beings waited, watching, knowing that the humans' next move would define the fate of both worlds. And for the first time in his life, Elias realized that doing what felt right did not always lead to safety. Sometimes it only postponed the consequences, leaving the pain to arrive later, sharper, heavier, and unavoidable. The human base orbiting the alien planet felt quiet at first. Lights glowed softly along the corridors, and monitors displayed calm, routine readings of the planet below. Commander Elias Varan had returned with his team, exhausted but relieved. They had chosen caution, choosing to delay action rather than risk outright conflict. For a moment it felt like the right choice, but calm is rarely permanent in the universe. The first warning came as a low, urgent beep from the communications console. Lieutenant Marco Chen's voice was tense. "Commander, sensors are detecting unusual activity near Colony Theta. 4. Multiple energy spikes. Could be weapon discharges." Elias frowned, stepping forward. "Explain." Marco pointed at the screen where blips of movement zipped across the surface of the planet. The readings matched the energy signature of the alien crystals. Someone or something is mobilizing. Leora Nix stepped closer, scanning the data. "These aren't human troops," she said quietly. Her eyes met Elias's. "It's them. The alien faction we saw. They're responding, and not peacefully." Elias's stomach sank. He had hoped that by retreating they had avoided immediate conflict. But now it seemed that their inaction had only allowed the situation to worsen. The aliens had interpreted hesitation as weakness, and their response was swift. The team assembled in the briefing room. Maps of the planet's surface flickered on the walls, showing areas under attack, energy discharges, and fleeing colonists. Reports streamed in from sensors and drones, painting a grim picture. "Commander," Marco said, his voice tight, "Theta 4 is surrounded. Colonists are stranded. Defense teams can't reach them in time." Elias rubbed his face. "How bad is it?" Leora's voice was steady but heavy. "Casualties could be high. The aliens are precise. They're not destroying everything. They're targeting human settlements, forcing us to retreat. They're teaching a lesson." Elias clenched his fists. He had thought he had done the right thing. choosing diplomacy over aggression. Now it seemed the universe was punishing him for it. "We need a plan," he said. "We can't just sit here." Leora nodded. "Their technology is far superior, and we risk escalation. We need to find a way to communicate before things get worse." Elias paced. "We tried communication before. They already saw us as a threat." We delayed. Now the consequences are arriving faster than we expected. The room fell silent, each member of the team grappling with the reality. For months, they had trained for exploration missions, for discovery, for negotiation. None had prepared them for consequences that arrived like a storm, silent, relentless, and unstoppable. A message came through from Colony Theta 4. The video feed showed chaos. Humans running through the streets, energy beams lighting up the night sky, structures partially collapsed. The aliens moved with fluid precision, avoiding unnecessary destruction but making clear their superiority. Colonists scrambled for shelter, confusion and fear written across their faces. Elias felt a sharp pang of guilt. Every life on that colony was now at risk because of the decision he had made. Leora put a hand on his arm. "This is what I meant." Delaying didn't stop the pain. It allowed it to grow. He nodded, unable to argue. He had wanted to protect everyone, but in doing so he had only postponed the consequences, allowing them to grow unchecked. The next hours were a blur of strategy meetings, communications, and attempts to coordinate defensive measures. The humans were not unprepared. Elias had ensured that, but against the alien precision and foresight, their defenses were inadequate. Then came the message from the aliens themselves, transmitted not through conventional channels, but telepathically piercing the minds of the command team. "Humans, your hesitation has cost you. We do not wish to destroy, we only seek balance. Yet balance now requires suffering." Elias felt his chest tighten. The words were not angry. They were almost clinical in their precision, but their meaning was devastating. The aliens were not cruel. They were enforcing the rules of their world. Humans had entered their domain, and every choice had consequences. He turned to Leora. They aren't evil." "They're enforcing their laws." She nodded slowly. "Yes. But enforcement has consequences. That is what you didn't account for when you decided to delay." Elias swallowed hard. "So what do? Do we evacuate Theta 4? Do we try to fight?" Leora's expression was grim. "We try to negotiate again. We try to understand their logic and work within it. Anything else risks full-scale disaster." The team moved quickly, preparing a shuttle to descend to the surface. Elias led the way, feeling the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. Each step on the shuttle deck was measured, deliberate, and cautious. He could not afford mistakes. Not now. Not ever. As they descended through the atmosphere, the planet's surface came into view. Smoke rose from several human settlements. Fires burned in patches, but the alien strikes were precise, avoiding unnecessary destruction. They were teaching lessons, shaping behavior, and humans were learning the hard way. Elias felt a wave of anger, frustration, and guilt all at once. He had wanted to do right. He had believed in human morality, in careful choices, in diplomacy, and yet, despite all his good intentions, he had failed. They landed near the edge of the chaos, choosing a location where they could observe without being immediately targeted. Elias and Leora stepped out, the alien air feeling strange against their suits, heavy with ions and energy. The cries of colonists echoed in the distance, and the low hum of alien technology vibrated under their feet. One of the aliens approached, not aggressive, not threatening, but imposing. Its translucent skin shimmered in the firelight, and its eyes glowed with quiet intelligence. Elias raised a hand in greeting. The alien spoke, again not in words, but directly in their minds. "You delayed. The cost was high, yet you come seeking dialogue. Why?" Elias felt the weight of every life lost, every injury suffered, every family in fear. "We seek understanding," he thought. "We seek a way to prevent further pain." "Understanding is not enough," the alien replied. "Action is required." "Balance must be restored." Leora stepped forward. "We understand, but there must be a solution that does not involve more suffering."
"We are willing to work with you."
The alien studied them, its gaze piercing. "Work, perhaps, but time has been lost. The human choices have consequences that cannot be undone. You will witness what hesitation costs." Elias felt the sting of truth. Every step he had taken, every decision to delay, had allowed the consequences to grow. And now they were arriving in full force, unrelenting and unavoidable. The alien motioned, and the humans were shown scenes of other settlements, some untouched, some destroyed, some partially spared. Each choice humans had made, each hesitation, had a ripple effect across the planet. Elias felt helpless. He looked at Leora, who met his gaze with quiet understanding. You see now. Good intentions are not enough. Leadership demands foresight, courage, and sometimes unbearable responsibility. Elias nodded, swallowing his guilt. He had thought he was protecting everyone by delaying action, but now he understood that every decision, even the right one, carried its own weight. He had delayed the pain, yes, but the universe had a way of catching up. As night fell over the planet, the humans prepared to meet with alien leaders, hoping to negotiate, hoping to find a solution that could prevent further disaster. Elias walked among his team, giving quiet instructions, steadying nerves, offering reassurance. Inside, he felt a growing resolve. He could not change what had happened, but he could influence what came next. He could act, make the hard choices, and face the consequences fully. Leora joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. You are ready, she said softly. Not because you have no fear, but because you understand what it means to bear the weight of choices. That is what makes you human. That is what makes you strong. Elias took a deep breath, feeling the alien wind against his face. He looked at the glowing horizon, at the crystal spires in the distance, at the lives both human and alien now intertwined with his decisions. He thought he had done right, but now he knew. Right choices were never simple, and delaying the inevitable only made the truth harder to face. The night was quiet, but in the distance, the hum of alien energy continued, a constant reminder that the consequences of hesitation had arrived, and there was no turning back. The neutral zone in orbit above the alien planet was silent except for the faint hum of human shuttles and alien energy fields. Commander Elias Varen stood on the observation deck staring at the glowing crystal citadel below. Months of negotiation, planning, and careful collaboration had led to this moment. The delicate balance between survival and morality, between human needs and alien lives. Beside him, Dr. Leora Nix adjusted her scanner, ensuring the energy fields remained stable. She looked at Elias, her eyes reflecting the crystal glow. It's working, she said softly. The planet is stabilizing, the crystals are secure, and the settlements are safe. Elias exhaled, feeling a tension he hadn't realized he carried. Yes, but it doesn't feel like complete success, he admitted. We prevented disaster, yes, but there is still so much fragility. One wrong move, and it could all collapse. Leora nodded. That's always the case when lives are involved. Stability is temporary, but we made it longer, and we made it safer. That's all anyone can do. The human and alien leaders assembled in the central chamber of the neutral station. The atmosphere was tense, but there was respect on both sides. Both species had seen the consequences of hesitation and understood the value of collaboration. Elias stepped forward, addressing the group. Leaders, representatives of both our peoples, he began. We have reached a point where compromise is no longer optional. The choices we make now will define our futures. We must act with wisdom, courage, and shared responsibility. The alien lead spoke, their voice resonating directly in the minds of all present. Humans have shown willingness to face the consequences of delayed action. They have acknowledged their errors. We will now share knowledge, but trust remains fragile. Every step forward must respect balance. Elias bowed slightly. We understand. We will act carefully, but decisively. Together, we can protect both species. Plans unfolded. Human engineers and alien scientists worked together, creating systems that could stabilize the energy crystals without harming the alien ecosystem. Techniques were shared. Humans offered technology to harvest energy safely, while aliens provided insight into the crystal's natural cycles, preventing overextraction. The cooperation was painstaking. Every adjustment required testing, every experiment carried risk. Yet, step by step, progress was made. Colonies previously endangered were fortified, alien territories stabilized, and a framework for sustainable resource sharing emerged. Elias watched the humans working alongside aliens, sharing tools, ideas, and even small moments of humor. It was a fragile unity, but it was real. A sense of pride warmed him, tempered by the memory of the lives lost and the chaos caused by earlier hesitation. In the middle of the chamber, the lead alien approached Elias. You have learned that delay does not prevent pain, they said. You have acted despite fear. That is what distinguishes a leader. That is what defines your humanity. Elias felt a weight lift slightly, replaced by a deeper understanding. I have learned that good intentions are never enough. Action, courage, and responsibility, that is what matters. Leora stepped forward, placing a hand on his arm. And you have shown it. Now it is time to ensure these lessons guide the future. The negotiations continued for hours, ensuring that both humans and aliens understood their responsibilities and limitations. Trade agreements were carefully drawn, environmental protections established, and joint defense protocols created. It was not perfect. Perfection rarely existed in such complex interactions, but it was sustainable and it provided hope. As the meetings concluded, Elias took a moment to look at the planet below. Fires had been extinguished, the colonies stabilized, and alien structures gleamed with renewed energy. Life, human and alien, had survived the worst. Yet he knew the consequences of delay would remain in memory and in the subtle scars left behind. "Do you think they'll forgive us?" asked one of the human engineers quietly, standing beside him. "They don't need to forgive," Elias replied. "They need us to act responsibly." "And we did. That is enough." Leora smiled faintly. "Humans learn through experience, and sometimes the universe teaches lessons in the harshest ways. But we survive, and we grow. That is our strength." Elias turned to her, feeling a mix of relief and humility. "I thought doing right meant avoiding harm. Now I know it means facing consequences, accepting responsibility, and doing everything you can to protect others, even when it is painful." She nodded. "Exactly, and you have done that. You have faced the pain you delayed. You have learned what it means to lead with humanity." The crew prepared to return to Earth, bringing back knowledge, technology, and a hard-earned understanding of morality and action. Colonies would continue to grow, new alliances would be formed, and humans would remember the lesson learned on this distant crystal planet. Before departing, Elias stood at the observation deck once more. The alien citadel shimmered, alive with energy and intelligence. He felt a deep respect for the beings who had challenged him, for the species that had taught him that hesitation has consequences, and for the humans who had chosen to act despite fear. Leora joined him silently, and together they watched the first shuttles lift from the planet's surface, carrying engineers, diplomats, and scientists ready to continue their work. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and often unforgiving, but humanity had proven itself capable of facing challenges with courage and morality. Elias thought back to the first choice he had made, to delay action, to attempt diplomacy, to hope that good intentions would be enough. He had been wrong in thinking it would prevent suffering, but he had been right in acting decisively when the consequences arrived. That distinction, he realized, was what separated thought from action, morality from courage, and humans from mere survivors. As the shuttle moved away from the planet, he looked down one last time. The world below was alive, fragile, and full of potential. And for the first time since the mission began, Elias allowed himself to feel hope. Hope that humans could grow, that humans could lead, and that the pain of yesterday could guide the choices of tomorrow. This is what it means to survive, to lead, and to be human, he thought. Not to avoid the consequences, but to face them, to learn from them, and to act with courage, no matter the cost. The stars stretched before them, infinite and eternal. Elias felt the weight of responsibility shift slightly, from burden to purpose. He was ready to return to Earth, ready to teach what he had learned, and ready to continue the journey that defined humanity, not just as explorers, but as stewards, learners, and moral beings in a vast, complex universe. And somewhere far below, the alien civilization watched the humans depart. They had judged, tested, and taught. They had faced the delayed consequences alongside the humans. And together, in the fragile balance of cooperation and understanding, both species had taken a step toward a future that, though uncertain, held hope. Elias knew this was only the beginning. Challenges would come again, new worlds, new choices, new consequences. But the lesson of this planet would remain with him. Doing what is right requires courage, action, and a willingness to endure the pain that inevitably follows. And as the shuttle carried them back to the stars, Elias felt it. Not triumph, not relief, but a quiet, steady determination. He would face whatever came next with the knowledge that humanity, flawed but brave, could meet the universe with morality, strength, and courage. For the first time in a long while, he smiled, because being human meant more than surviving. It meant learning, growing, and acting, even when the pain was unavoidable.